Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, thank you for joining me. I'm Katie and it's an Etch-a-Sketchbook kind of drawing today. Well, when I say drawing, I mean painting, but I did draw it first, as you can see. So I'm doing what I usually do and just masking off areas I don't want that paint to go on straight away. And I'm using a masking pen because it's so difficult using a brush. That's how I see it. We're chucking a wash of colour on, and yes, of course, I'm going to throw salt on it. But before we fully get into the picture, I actually did a bit of a sciencey thing here. Well, not sciencey. I actually wanted to have a look for myself and obviously show you guys exactly what the salt does to the paint. So I've got a microscope, and you will have to bear with me. It's very tricky to use, but I actually filmed not on this painting. I've just got a couple of pieces of paper just to show you. So on the screen now, I've just used some table salt and just thrown it straight on there, and the microscope picture will come up in a second, but I had to throw some more on it because it was really difficult to align it. So this is the table salt, and just look at how the pigments are drawn towards the salt crystals, because obviously they soak up the moisture and they take the pigment particles along as well. And this one is done with the table salt, and this is really cool because you actually get to see the crystalline formation of the salt crystals. I said crystal a lot there, didn't I? But it looks really cool, and I tried to throw it on a little pool of the paint, but that didn't work amazingly. I dabbed it with a paintbrush and ended up dragging it off screen, but I managed to do another one, and just look at that, how cool does that look? And that's what's happening to your paint. And I found the more granulated the paint, the more you're going to see an effect. That's only my speculation though, and if you want to see me do more of these little experiments with the paint, let me know in the comments, because I think that'd be quite cool to share that with you guys. Anyway, I'm not going to go too much into the technicalities behind this because I have a bit of a story, but before I continue with this story, obviously I'm scratching the salt off before I add the paint, but I actually wanted to do a story about the Green Man. It's completely made up. I do have some ties to it because the little village I came from had a Green Man on the well, but I made up a little story to go with it. So if you want to listen to it, that's fine. If not, you can just press mute, but it's not a bad story. Anyway, we shall begin. It was said many, many years ago, before our grandparents and even their grandparents, there was a spirit of nature. He would roam wherever there was flora. He was the Green Man. In the spring, he would whisper to the trees to awaken, to reach out their leaves from the winter slumber like hands embracing the sun. In return, they would blossom, parading petals to welcome all creatures to also awaken and rejoice in this brand new season. The summertime, more new life would appear. The recently awoken fauna and those visiting from afar would have young of their own. The season was the kindest. It was warm and bountiful. When the sun was at its highest, it would provide shelter and cool. The Green Man would sit beneath and admire the life in its full bloom. Autumn would then arrive. The Green Man would paint the leaves of the trees in a rich multitude of colours, from reds, yellows to rich browns and violets. Fruit would fall and would be stored away safely by all creatures, and any that remained was blessed by the spirit to grow the following spring. As nature retreated into winter and the leaves on the tree had all but gone, the once abundant wildlife asleep migrated or just surviving. The air would be crisp, and dustings of ice and snow would paint the landscape. Although this was to be the way of nature, the Green Man still wished for there to be colour. There was still flora with beautiful hues. The evergreens, like their cousins during the summer months, would provide shelter for those still awake, but this time it would be from the frost and snow. To give thanks, the spirit placed small berries upon these trees and plants so they could create another generation of colour. Villagers would leave offerings of honey and wine throughout the year. They too were grateful for how the spirit would take care of nature, and for the time being, all was good. As the village grew and demand for crops and land increased, they forgot all about the spirit. The Green Man retreated further into nature, keeping the balance of the woodlands and the seasons, whilst around him the land became flat and barren of this untamed life. His island of trees was his haven, and life remained unchanged for him. He was forgotten by people, but still remained with nature. A particularly bad winter had blanketed the village and surrounding farmland. Although the residents were well stocked for nourishment, everywhere was frozen tight. Thick snow covered the fields and made different plots indistinguishable. Eventually, the temperature turned and the frost and snow began to thaw. Fast-flowing, wild streams would become rivers, and the villagers took flight as their homes were flooded. They headed towards the seemingly untouched woodlands, still intact, with newly forming leaves on the solid trees. There was a willow tree with a figure sitting beneath. It was the Green Man. The villagers saw the spirit and asked for his help. Even though the people had become masters of their own crops for nourishment, they'd forgotten about the roles the other plant life provided. The Green Man gave each of the villagers a branch from the giant willow and said to plant a pathway. When the branches developed roots, they would guide the water away. And so the pathway was planted. The water followed. Willow trees surrounded each side of the newly formed stream. Wildlife returned, and nature was invited to live beside the village again. To show gratitude, a well was erected. The faucet of the well was modelled upon the spirit that saved the village. Offerings were made, feasts and celebrations were had, as not to forget the power of nature and, of course, the kindness of the Green Man. And that's the story. I know it's a bit of a random one. I haven't really chucked a story into anything for a long time, but I thought, why not? The little village I came from celebrates every May the well. They dress the well with flowers, and there's all sorts of activities and feasts and all sorts of stuff, and it's gone on for about a century and a half actually, although I couldn't tell you the exact dates. But growing up, there was always a well dressing in this village, and my grandparents and some other family members participated in decorating the well and organising the events. So I guess this is probably why I'm quite heavily influenced with this picture. I hope you've enjoyed watching me paint this while I'm doing the story. I'll just fill you in quickly on what I've done. So obviously you've seen me layer up the different colours, and I've just kept a very simple palette. I've just used yellows and greens, and just to outline everything and make everything stand out, I used just like a really deep blue. That's all I used. I think it might be the Lunar Blue. I could be wrong, but it's the Daniel Smith Lunar Blue or something like that. Anyway, I might be waffling on a little bit there, but I really enjoyed doing this, and I do occasionally draw a green man just for the sake of it, and maybe it's because it's this time of year and it's spring, and it kind of just makes me think about this little figure on the well that used to slightly terrify me, but more than anything intrigue me and grow to like him. Anyway, let me know in the comments if you've got any traditions where you live, or if you have any celebrations locally or nationally, just something where you celebrate nature or the season. I think that'd be pretty cool to hear. I'd like to hear that actually. Anyway, we're all done. I just want to say a massive thank you for watching this video, and I really hope you enjoyed it. I guess it's me just sharing something a little personal with you guys there. If you have enjoyed it though, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to comment as well, let me know what you think. And if you haven't already, why not hit that subscribe button? Because that would really help the channel grow, and you keep up to date with every time I posted something new. Anyway, I hope you're all staying safe, I hope you're all doing arty things or enjoying arty things, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care guys, bye!